The Los Olas Isles. What it was, what it is now, what it could be. Los Olas Boulevard was constructed in 1917, connecting the swampy wetlands of the barrier islands to the downtown area of Los Olas, paving the way for the beautiful Los Olas Isles. Often referred to as the Venice of America, these isles branch out north and south off of Los Olas Boulevard. They are nestled between Coley Hammock and our famous Fort Lauderdale Beach, home to some of the most expensive real estate in Fort Lauderdale. Connecting the beach to downtown Los Olas, this boulevard serves the millions of tourists that visit each year, including the over 100,000 that attend our International Boat Show, which generates over $500 million to our local economy yearly. Sidewalks and bike paths on each side of the boulevard provide the popular passageway throughout this picturesque neighborhood used by local joggers, walkers, bikers, and now scooterers. A famous, highly traveled boulevard like Los Olas should welcome our visiting guests as well as local residents with beautiful landscaping and highly maintained canals. But most importantly, the assurance of safety. The Florida Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles' recent data shows that Broward County had the second highest number of pedestrian and bicycle fatalities in Florida. With pedestrian deaths soaring, it's hard to believe that there isn't one crosswalk all the way from Southeast 15th Avenue to Riviera Isles Drive, Southeast 25th Avenue. For the last few years, requests have been made for at least one crosswalk to not only slow the speed of automobiles, bikers, and scooter traffic, but to also provide safety to those needing to cross this highly traveled boulevard. According to the National Association of City Transportation Officials, blinking lit crosswalks combined with a street light are the safest options. Raised crosswalks are effective, especially for slowing traffic, but not a good option for boulevards with emergency vehicle activity. Along with the need of at least one crosswalk on this stretch of Los Olas Boulevard is the necessity of solar-lit crosswalks along the north side of the boulevard where each of the newly constructed Los Olas Isle bridges meet the street. The $8 million five-bridge construction was designed using old data, unfortunately making them almost 2 feet too high. This error not only required the northbound side of Los Olas to have to be raised, increasing flooding on the south side, but also increased the height of the sidewalls of all 5 bridges, creating dangerous blind spots for drivers exiting these northern aisles. If you're exiting these aisles in a normal-sized vehicle, these higher raised walls create a blind spot on both the east and west side. Even if you slow down and try to look both ways, there are many times you're surprised at what is coming at you from the other direction. Between auto traffic, bikers, walkers, joggers, and now scooter traffic, it can be extremely difficult to navigate a safe exit from these northern aisles. Adding solar-lit signage as well as lit crosswalks will warn drivers exiting these northern aisles of oncoming traffic from both the east and west sides. This will not only improve safety for pedestrians making this crossing, but also protect drivers from the atrocity of hitting an innocent pedestrian and avoiding a terrible accident. The city opted to delay plans for crosswalks and streetlights on our busy boulevard during last fall's 2019 budget meeting. Were lawsuits budgeted in for lack of safety on this extremely busy boulevard? along with pedestrian, bike, and scooter safety, is the well-being of our over 14,000 residents that live on the Isles. One major area of concern is emergency medical service response time. EMS response times downtown started rising in 2015, according to fire department data. As for our Isles, you can see here on this GIS chart, the average EMS response time is at least 9 minutes and 40 seconds, 2 minutes over the national average of 7 minutes. Is that acceptable? Along with voting down the crosswalks last September, the city voted to delay plans for an emergency rescue substation that would have improved some of the worst response times in Fort Lauderdale. Probably the most critical dilemma facing our city is our decaying infrastructure. Fort Lauderdale's underground pipes are crumbling, as our mayor described when speaking of our 5-ash water treatment plant. He even said that it was being held together by spit and chewing gum. And I think we've all experienced a fine example of these fragile pipes, especially this past July. Some of us having to boil water, if we had water to boil, for at least 10 days. This water crisis brought Fort Lauderdale to its knees, exposing the frailty of the city's water and sewer system. Though an FP&L subcontractor was responsible for the first water main break, had the system worked properly, officials acknowledged water would have been diverted to another pipe, and few people would have known there was a breach. Instead, underground valves that hadn't been tested in years failed. This lack of maintenance turned a manageable mistake into a system collapse that dried up faucets and required boil water alerts for over 200,000 residents and forced countless businesses to shut down or make dramatic, costly adjustments. The lawsuits are just beginning. Even Mayor Trentella said that this event should be a wake-up call for all of us to understand the urgency of addressing this important need. Can we also accept that aging pipes carrying wastewater from toilets in our area have spilled over 20.6 million gallons of raw sewage into our waterways over a 2-year period? If we do nothing, we will all be affected both personally and economically. As important as it is to get going with this One Los Olas project, building a strong, safe foundation that not only supports our downtown businesses economically, but also upholds the value of our local real estate market should be placed at the forefront of this project. And along with tackling our aging infrastructure problem, rising seawater must be dealt with properly and promptly, too. According to Henk Ovink, the world's only water ambassador from the Netherlands, advising the UN, 35 countries, and a dozen U.S. cities, feels it's time to rewrite America's flood disaster playbook entirely. The Netherlands, one of the most flood-prone places in the world, now with their new Dutch innovated stormwater management, almost never floods. We can't prevent rising seawater from happening, but we can rebuild wisely and relocate floodwaters to shallow and creatively built reservoirs. This one basketball court alone can hold 450,000 gallons of stormwater runoff. This recreational water sport park doubles as a flood reservoir. This sloping park on top of a shopping center is a storm surge barrier. Hired by then President Obama, Ovink's team was brought in to help rebuild Hoboken, New Jersey, after Hurricane Sandy. The U.S. government actually coughed up nearly $1 billion to aid in this experimental rebuilding. The group at Rebuild worked with the city of Atlanta to develop a student design competition for its greening of Ted Turner Drive, a 1.4-mile roadway that cuts through downtown Atlanta. Rebuild helped the city rethink its function and benefits. Along with creating a beautiful public space, this gateway to Atlanta's downtown plans to have a new bikeway infrastructure, better walking experience, rainwater absorption, and mitigate heat. Sound familiar? Has anyone even thought of hiring this team to at least offer some suggestions before our One Los Olas project begins? And if not, then why not? Isn't it time to at least be open to some tried and true ideas? Los Olas Isles. What it was, what it is now, what it could be. The boulevard connecting all of us with one Los Olas, a dream that needs to be built on a strong foundation. Many worry, how can we afford this extensive renovation project? But then we have to ask ourselves, how can we afford not to?